welcome to Glitter Enhancement, Diamonds, Gemstones, and Jewelry. I'm Michaela. I am a graduate gemologist from GIA, Carlsbad, California. A graduate gemologist can grade colored stones, diamonds. I also took a course where I'm accredited jewelry professional, so I know about metal heritage and just jewelry in general. Tonight we're going to do is a commercial grade ruby. It sort of has that pinky undertone, and when you get it, there's going to be a few flaws that you'll be able to see in the stone. And the stone all the way to the right is a CAD grade stone. There's multiple inclusions in it that make it opaque or unable to see through it. And these are all the same size, all about the same weight, and you can see the difference in the price between each grade. And it just depends on the demand for the stone. Natural versus man-made gemstones. A natural gemstone is a gemstone out of the earth. It's not made in a laboratory. Man-made gemstones are made in the laboratory by man, or they're aided by man in the process of making them. Now, natural gemstones can be treated to help their clarity, durability, or to stabilize them, which we'll get to later. And there's two types of man-made gemstones. There's a synthetic and there's an imitation. Synthetic gemstones are also referred to as lab-created. They're made in a laboratory. And the synthetic gemstone has the same chemical composition as a natural gemstone out of the earth. An imitation gemstone is also called a simulant or a substitute. It also can be called glass or plastic, because usually when there's an imitation, it's made out of glass or plastic. Now, you can use quartz as an imitation of a diamond, or there's a lot of variations of what you can use as imitations. Is there any questions on natural versus man-made gemstones or imitations and synthetics? Pricing of both of those, a synthetic is going to be more expensive because it's going to be the same durability. An imitation is going to be less expensive, typically because it's an inexpensive medium like glass, plastic, or quartz that's imitating a stone. Synthetics use a lot of power creating them. They make they use big ovens or crucibles to make them, depending on the type or way that they're going to be formed. There's three different types or ways that synthetic stones are made. They're made by the flame fusion method, or flux method, or hydrothermal method. And depending on the type of, or the way that they're made synthetically, the hydrothermal and flux are going to be the more expensive ones because they're in their kiln or in their crucible for longer. The flame fusion method is the most economical way to make a synthetic gemstone. Treatments. Most gemstones on the market are treated. They're treated to improve their color, their clarity, durability, and to stabilize them, either their color or their durability. And it also makes them affordable, because if we didn't treat gemstones or if we didn't heat treat them to make their color better, there'd be a lot less gem quality gemstones or desirable colors that you would want to put in your ring or your pendant or bracelet. A few of the treatments we'll just be touching briefly on are on the screen here. Fracture filling, heating, irradiation, bleaching, lattice diffusion, coating, laser drilling, high pressure, high temperature, dyeing, and impregnating. fracture filling is filling the surface reaching fractures or cavities with a glass, resin, wax, or oil to conceal their visibility and to improve the apparent clarity of the gemstone. They can either be filled with a glass type material or an oil. It depends on the gemstone what would be most durable for it. For example, emeralds are usually fracture filled with an oil. So when you buy an emerald, if you see on your receipt that it says oiling, it's just a natural thing that's done with them. And a lot of treatments are done before they even get to the gem cutter, or automatically when they come out of the ground. Fracture filling is mainly used on emeralds, rubies, and sometimes you'll see it in diamonds. As you can see on the picture on the left, there's a picture of a diamond, and it has a fracture running across the table all the way to the girdle. And that's a picture before fracture filling, and after fracture filling, you can just see a faint line of it on the right-hand side. Now, they don't do that to fool you whether, oh, it's a better gemstone. They do it because it's more visually appealing once it's done.
Just out of curiosity, how long have they done these processes?
Treatments have been done for a long time. They used to treat them either putting a coating on them or fracture filling since we've been wearing gemstones,
So
just to make them more appealing.
So in the case of vintage gemstones, they would probably already also been treated.
They could be treated in vintage jewelry and gems. Way back then, they like to use better quality gems than we do today. So today, sadly, we do a lot more treatments, but it wasn't uncommon, or you wouldn't not see it back then. For example, they used to put a foil back, or basically make the gemstone more shiny by putting a metal on the back on diamonds, because they didn't have a cut yet that would make them brilliant, like we have around brilliant diamonds today. So once in a while, you'll see a foil back gemstone that is in a vintage piece. How often? I haven't seen one yet, but that doesn't mean I won't see one because I haven't been out there too long. Heating is exposing the gemstone to a high temperature for the purpose of altering the color. It's used a lot in amber, amethyst, aquamarine, ruby, sapphire, and many more. The one I have pictured on the screen here is a tanzanite. Tanzanite, in the ground, you can find it purple, which it's called tanzanite, or before it turns purple, it's called zoisite. Don't quote me on that, because I think I'm flipping my names here tonight. But it goes from brown, and then they heat it up, and it turns purple, that beautiful tanzanite purple. It's all the chemicals that are in the stone, and the elements are there to make it that color, but it didn't receive enough heat in the earth to make it that beautiful purple or beautiful red or beautiful blue in the sapphire or ruby. And heating is probably one of the most common treatments on the market today. As soon as it comes out of the mine, little mom and pop or whoever's mining it, it goes right in their campfire, right in their little kiln. They'll have a little processing unit in the village. Irradiation is exposing a gem to an artificial source of radiation to change its color. It's sometimes followed by heat treatment. It's a form of combination treatment. You'll see this a lot of times on diamonds, especially fancy colored diamonds, because you don't naturally get those greens and blue, vivid greens and blues in there. Same thing with the reds and the pinks. Topaz is another one that's commonly irradiated. From them you'll see, and quartz. Any questions on radiation? Lattice diffusion is sort of like a form of radiation. It's the penetration of the surface of the surface of the gemstone to change the color. You can see on the screen, you have the center the two dark blue stones, or we'll start from the left, sorry. Those are the sapphires before they were irradiated. Then the next two dark ones are after they were lattice diffused, and then they polished them too much, and that shows how the lattice diffusion is just on the surface of the gemstone. So if you take off too much of the lattice diffusion and too much of the penetration that was in the stone, it'll go back to its original color. Although this is stable, if you polish it too much, it will disappear. Bleaching is a chemical, or basically like using your Clorox bleach at home. Use a chemical to alter or lighten the color of an object or gemstone. Most of the time they'll be bleached and then they'll be dyed. For example, pearls, as soon as they come out of the oyster, they have a little jar of water sitting right next to them and they get plunked in there. And so they go right from the oyster to a bleach solution that makes them that bright white or lighter color. Bleaching is commonly used on jade and pearls and coral. Those are probably going to be your three top ones that are bleached. There's many other gemstones that aren't on the PowerPoints that are bleached or treated with these ways. But once you go from bleaching, it's more readily accepting dye and other materials. Surface coating is altering a gem's appearance by applying a coloring agent like paint to the backs of the surfaces of gems. If you just put it to the back, it's known as a backing. Or you can paint it all over the surface of the gemstone. Sometimes they electrically charge or gems. So like this quartz here, it has a electroplating of titanium on it to give you that iridescent color. You'll see it some in tanzanite to give it a deeper purple. A lot of times in topaz, when you see your mystic topaz or topaz that have that iridescent or rainbow-like colors on them. A lot of times in quartz, once in a while in diamonds, but it's not too common. You'll see it occasionally, mainly in topaz and quartz is where you're going to see it though. Laser drilling is just used in diamonds. This involves using a narrow beam of light or a laser to burn a hole through the diamond to the inclusion. And by doing that, the laser will burn out the inclusion that's in there, so if there's a carbon spot when the laser hits it, it'll disappear. Sometimes they'll use a laser and then they'll use not bleach but a lightning agent to make that clarity characteristic disappear in there. And once in a while you'll see where a company will take and fracture fill their laser drill holes to make it less apparent. And you'll see it sometimes, but it's always disclosed if you have a reputable jeweler. And the arrows are pointing to two little laser drill holes that are going into this diamond. You can see where there's that crystal in there, sort of a reddish brown color. HPHT, or high pressure, high temperature, is heating a diamond to high temperature under high pressure to remove or change its color, or you can even change the clarity of a diamond by doing this. It's occasionally occurred in diamonds, mostly in colored diamonds. For example, they'll take a brown diamond on the left-hand side and they'll put it under high pressure, high temperature, and it'll turn it to a better color, a more desirable color. Some people want that diamond on the left because it's that cognac or chocolate chocolate color. Is there any questions so far? Yes, sir.
Do they do that after it's cut or in the raw form?
I believe they do it both ways.
Both ways.
They could do it before and after. If they do it while it's cut, it leaves, what is it called, a texture on the girdle or on some of the facets of the stones. Yes,
Just out of curiosity, what's the cut called on that shape?
that would be a trillion cut with clipped corners. Dyeing is introducing a colored dye into porous or fractured gemstones to change their color. Fractures are sometimes purposely put into the gemstone by heating the gemstone up to a high temperature and then dunking it in a liquid like water or oil or alcohol to make it fracture so it will take up that dye. A lot of times when they do they'll call it quench crackle, they heat it up and then they put it in their water. And already in that water is their blue or green dye that they want to go into the stone. A lot of times when if you look on the internet, you'll see dragon vein agate. What it is, it's a quench crackled quartz. So they take the quartz and they heat it up to high temperature, and then they'll drop it into their bucket of water, and it'll absorb the dye, or the dye will be sucked into the fractures. Dyeing is used a lot on pearls. Pearls don't naturally come in pink and green and the bright, vibrant colors. Most of the time they're dyed. They'll come in natural peach tones and cream and white, black and gold, but they don't come in like the chocolate browns and stuff like that. Quartz is another one that's dyed a lot. We have pearls and quartz here. Any questions on dyeing? Am I flying too fast through this? I'm just sort of going with my slides here. Impregnating is putting the surface of a coarse gemstone is permeated with a polymer, wax, or plastic to give it a greater durability and to improve its appearance. It's used a lot in turquoise, lapis, jade, amazonite, and serpentine. You can see here on the left there's a light blue piece of turquoise, and they impregnated it, and it turned the nice turquoise blue on the right hand side. Just by adding that wax, it deepens the color because it's sort of like putting water on, if you pick up a rock and you run it under the water, you'll get the more, what am I trying to say? You'll get the colors to show through better. And it's encountered frequently in the trade.
I've seen some things where they call it purple turquoise. Is that what they're doing to that also?
They're dyeing it. They'll be dyeing it. You do see green turquoise naturally, but you don't find purple turquoise. So what they're probably doing to get the purple turquoise is they're going to bleach it, and then they'll impregnate it with a purple wax or dye it and then impregnate it.
And do they do that on the raw stones or after they cut them?
Again, they could do it both ways. If you do it in the rough, it might only go in a certain distance into the surface of the rough and stop. So after you do that and then you cut it, you'll have a spot of blue and then a spot of white and then a spot of blue.
So it's more likely to eventually after it's cut.
After it was cut, or if they slab it thin.
Sure.
And they have this stuff down to science, so if the person knows what they're doing,
They know how deep it goes.
they'll know how deep it'll go, and sometimes they'll put pressure on it, because the pressure will make it go farther in. Just like anything, with the oiling, they'll put pressure on it to get it to go into the deeper cracks. They'll heat it up to make it seep in more. They have lots of tips and tricks just to make these work. Any other questions?
So like
sort of like when you cook something, one person will cook it one way, and they'll add the onions first and then the garlic later, and somebody will add garlic first and onions later. So metal heritage, right now on the market, you see a lot of platinum, gold, and sterling silver. Sterling silver is becoming more popular because it's an affordable metal. You're also seeing ruthenium, rhodium, and a couple other metals in the platinum family being made into rings. But we're just going to stick to these three for tonight. Platinum, in your platinum jewelry, you're going to see platinum, PT 99 or 999, PT 950, or PT 850. And all this means is it's telling you that it's platinum, and if it has 999 after the PT, it's going to be 99.9% platinum. If it has PT 850, it's going to be 85% platinum.
Question,
Yes.
why do they do that? Is it for ease of working or for just conserving metal?
Well, ease of working, probably not so much. They put the stamp behind it so you know what it's alloyed with.
Right.
Especially if it's a lower caratage, like 85% or 95%.
Is 85% easier to work with than 999?
Off the top of my head, I'm not quite for sure.
I know on the sterling, the .999 is really soft,
Right.
so you get the pliable a lot
Well,
more.
on sterling,
Yeah,
but on
and-
platinum,
yeah, I'm not sure about platinum, but I know that's the case with the sterling.
because platinum is hard to work with, as I understand.
Platinum is very hard to work with. It's a harder metal to get that high polish shine where you get the mirror-like finish.
But it's more durable also.
It's more durable, but it does take nicks and dings easier than white gold. We see a lot of platinum bands come in, and as soon as they put it in my hand, I can see, before I even look at the stamp, between the weight and the look of it after it's worn, that it's a platinum ring.
Is platinum heavier?
Platinum is heavier. Specific gravities of the metals I don't have memorized
No,
yet,
it's fine.
because I don't use them too often. And we're gonna go to 18 karat gold. 18 karat gold is gonna be stamped 18K or 750. 18 karat gold is 75% gold and 25% of alloyed metals. Alloys, they could use silver, nickel, any non-precious metal to alloy it with. And depending on what you alloy it with, will change the color of gold. So for white gold, they're gonna alloy it with white metals like zinc, nickel, silver. And for yellow gold, they're gonna alloy it with yellow metals like brass, copper, to keep that yet more yellow color. 14 karat is gonna be stamped 14K or 585. 14 karat gold is 58.3% gold. 12 karat gold, now you're not gonna see you won't see jewelry stamped with this unless it's Black Hills gold. And on Black Hills gold, all that's 12 karat is the gold leaves. The rest of the bands are either gonna be silver, if it's white in color, or if it's yellow, it's gonna be 10 karat gold. Now, when you get over to European countries, they go all the way down to 9 karat, 8 karat, and they do some different caratages that are more acceptable or accepted by their trade of jewelers or what is it called? The people that regulate the jewelry industry and what we have to disclose and the metal caratages. 10 karat gold is going to be stamped 10K or 416. 10 karat gold is 41.7% gold. Now, 18 karat gold is going to be the softest of the caratages that I have on the screen because it has more gold in it, and gold is a very soft metal. It's very malleable also. 10 karat gold is going to be the hardest alloy on the screen right now because it has less parts gold and more parts of other metals that are alloyed into it. Silver, most times on the market you're going to see fine silver, which is 99.9% silver. It'll be stamped, I've seen a Then you have sterling silver, which is gonna be stamped sterling, STER, or 925. And that's gonna be 92.5% silver. There are a few companies out there that have different alloys of silver. One of them is Rio Grande. They have what they call Argentinian silver, and that's a different percentage than sterling silver, fine silver.
Have you used it?
The Argentinian silver, I haven't. I've known people who have for projects, and it works great. It's supposed to tarnish less because of metals that they've alloyed in with it. And it depends on what you alloy in with. Sometimes you can get alloys that will tarnish less. Like gold, if you put a lot of silver in it, you'll actually get your gold to tarnish. Gold can tarnish if it has a lot of silver alloyed in with it.
So your Argentinian doesn't fire steel as that either, does it?
That I don't know, because I haven't put a torch to it yet and played with it. You know, now I want to order it in and just see how it reacts when we stop it.
It takes forever to get it to turn tarnished if you want it to.
Oh, that's
I dump it in liver of sulfur all the time, and it takes forever for it to tarnish, so.
How do we make rose gold?
Rose gold, let's see here, they're gonna alloy it with, I don't know off the top of my head, alloys, copper and iron, I believe it is, to give it that red color. Green gold, they alloy with silver, am I saying this right?
And zinc.
And zinc, thank you. Any other questions on heritage? And here on the screen, we have a picture of white gold. The first picture on the left is natural white gold that's not rhodium plated. It has that slight yellow tint to it. The second picture is a rhodium plated white gold ring. Oops. And what rhodium is it's a platinum type metal. It's in the platinum family. They put electroplating of it on there to give it that bright white platinum-like look. And then the third picture is a white gold ring that has been worn over time, and part of the rhodium plating is worn off. So gold is always going to naturally have a yellow tint to it, or some basic yellow in it. So now we're to myths and truths. Diamonds are the most expensive gemstone. This is false. It depends on what expert you talk to and how you want to separate the stones or determine which is the more valuable gemstone. A lot of people say emeralds are the most expensive gemstone if you get that beautiful blue-green color. And then your top 3 stones for expense are diamonds, rubies, and emeralds. Those are going to be your top three most expensive stones. In ancient times, the term sapphire described all blue stones, and similarly, all yellow stones were called topaz. This is true that they didn't have the abilities that we do today to identify gemstones by looking into them and reading how they react to light or getting the refractive index. Most pearls made today are cultured. This is true. This process is done by inserting a small shell into the oyster, who then painstakingly is covered with the pearl material or that iridescent color that you see, the nacre. And this takes up to 3 years to get a nice pearl. The longer they leave it in the oyster, the thicker the coating or the nacre is going to be on the nucleus or the little seed or piece of shell that they put in the oyster. Any questions so far? You can tell if a piece of gold is real by biting on it. This is false. A lot in back way when they gold, they would do that to see if it was real today. I wouldn't suggest doing it because the way that they alloy it, some alloys are harder than others. Like when you get to 10 karat, you probably don't want to bite it. You might lose a tooth if you do that, and then you have an expensive dentist bill. And some people lead paint or paint lead gold to fool you with the softness, but it's actually just lead with a gold color on it. The lead is heavier than gold, so you'll be able to tell by the weight. The first synthetic diamonds appeared in the 1950s. This is true. The first synthetic gemstones did appear in the 1950s. They were small, but they were still out there. The first synthetic gemstone was a ruby. They first made it back in the 1800s, and they announced it in 1902, when they started becoming available after that. A lot of times, let's see, it was the 1960s where synthetic sapphires and rubies really become available. And you'll see them, we get a lot of vintage jewelry, and people bring in a stone and say, oh, this is great-grandma's Alexandrite, and we get a big, they're beautiful, but it's a color change sapphire that we get in there. And then I look like the bad guy because I come, oh, sorry, this isn't an Alexandrite, or this isn't the stone that grandma said it was. But then they go out with another cool gemstone. Diamonds are billions of years old. This is true. Diamonds were formed in the earth, and they take 1 to 3 billion years. So all of the diamonds that we have in rings today are billions of years old. How diamonds were brought up to the surface is by volcanic eruptions. So when volcanoes erupted, if you want to picture, you have diamonds coming up of the tops of volcanoes and falling.
They don't melt?
They don't melt. Surprisingly, they don't. Once they're formed, they can take quite a bit of heat. But if they're kept under pressure, that heat and pressure, once they get up to the air, they're not going to melt. Now, saying that none of them did on their way up from the mantle all the way up, can't say because we weren't there when they started appearing. Any questions?
Is it, excuse me, is it pretty easy for someone like you that's trained to tell a real stone from a synthetic?
It is. It depends on the type of synthetic. In school, when we went to school, before we graduated, we got our diploma, we had a 20-stone test, and they gave us some of the hardest synthetics to tell. Or some of us said that they were the synthetics, whether we were just plain old nervous, or they were actually the hard synthetics, we're not for sure, but synthetics, any gemologist should be able to tell the difference. Now, if you miss an update on there's this new treatment or there's this new synthetic inclusion that we don't know about, then there's a possibility of grading, miscalling a stone. But it's usually pretty easily done.
Do synthetic diamonds have flaws?
Synthetic diamonds can have flaws. They do have flaws. And most of the time, you'll be able to tell just by the flaws that are in them. I didn't bring my diamond book, but there's a whole list of inclusions
There
that
are
are
different kinds of inclusions in natural diamond.
different kinds of inclusions and just different, different look. It's more, I don't know how to describe it, I just know what to look for.
Just out of curiosity, little gem testers that you see online, would those be effective to test, to tell you whether it's lab created or natural?
They have a tester out there that will tell you that whether it's lab-created diamond or a natural diamond. And then you'll see, the tester that you'll see most often is a moissanite tester. It'll tell you whether it's a diamond or synthetic moissanite. And for years, or not years, I shouldn't say that, but before they changed it, if you used a synthetic or a diamond tester on a moissanite, until they got the right tool, the synthetic moissanite would read as a diamond. Synthetic moissanite is the most common or most foolable gemstone that they can pass off as a diamond. The only way to tell between a diamond and a synthetic moissanite, if you're going to look at it, or when I look at it, is it's doubly refractive. So when I look in the stone, instead of seeing one facet line, when I look at it through my loupe, I see two facet lines or two lines in the back of the stone. Opals are made up of 3 to 10% water. This is true. Opals can actually be made up to 30% water. They're a pretty fragile gemstone, especially if you own an opal here in Wyoming. Keep it out of direct sunlight, just so it won't crack or craze. You'll see this in a diamond. When you look down at your stone, sometimes you'll see this white crack going across the top of your stone. That's it losing its water, and it'll crack. Now, once it does crack, it's irreversible. You can't soak it in water and make it puff back up when you can't make it rehydrate. And one way to get around cracking and freezing is if you store it in a humidified place. Like you go to some jewelry stores where you have a high-end colorful opal, like what's on the screen or similar to what's on the screen. They'll have a little bowl of water in the case with that opal to keep it humid in there.
Should you store your opals in water?
You wouldn't have to store them in water. I would
Does
say,
it hurt?
I'm sorry?
Does it hurt?
It shouldn't hurt it, not that I know of, but I haven't tried it or researched it. I would say keep it in a humid place, even if you kept it in a container, or just in a cool place, cool, dark place, to keep it from
drying up.
keeping
How about
it from
freezing?
freezing. You don't want to freeze an opal because if it's 3 to 10% water, you could possibly break it. I know my manager had an opal. He left it in his truck in the winter, and he took and when he got it in the morning, because he was gonna make something out of it for a client, and he's like, dang it, it had a big crack across it, so we could set it. We had to order a new one to set. Gold is always naturally yellow in color. This is true. Gold can be alloyed with other metals to create other colors. For example, white gold, like the buffalo on the right-hand side, rose gold, or green gold, like leaves on the Black Hills gold ring. We sort of jumped ahead and got to this a little bit ago. Diamonds are indestructible. This is false. Diamonds, like any gemstone, are breakable. They can be chipped, cracked, they can be damaged just like any other gemstone, depending on how you hit them. The toughness of a gemstone is how it takes hits. Diamonds can take hits pretty good, but nothing is indestructible. And in the picture here, this is actually how they start the cutting process of a diamond. What they do is they cleave it. They take and they carve a line into it with another diamond or a laser. And they put that steel blade in there, and then they hit it with this guy uses a wooden mallet, and they cleave it. Diamonds have 4 planes of cleavage. Don't take that and go, oh my gosh, my diamond's gonna break if I wear it. You should be fine with that. It takes a very precise hit or blow to break a diamond. Is there any questions that I missed, or just any general questions? My phone through here, I didn't time myself, so. Any gem questions or jewelry questions that you wonder about, durabilities or processes of making?
What's the softest gem then?
Softest gem on the most hardest scale is tau. diamond is the hardest natural. It's rated 10. Corundum or rubies, sapphires, and those are rated 9, which is below diamonds. Quartz rated 6 to 7, if I'm remembering right.
By quartz, you mean agate?
Quartz or agate. Quartz and agate are pretty much the same thing. It's just their crystalline structure or how they're formed. You have rock crystal quartz, which is clear, fractures differently, and then agate, which doesn't have the crystalline structure where it makes it quite as clear. You can get clear agates, but not quite as often. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Makes sense.
Okay. Iolite is a gemstone. It's a purple gemstone. It's commonly used to imitate tanzanite. That's the closest natural purple to tanzanite. It's a deeper purple than tanzanite. It's a pretty purple. And it makes good necklaces and earrings. It's a little bit softer, so I would suggest it in a ring.
If you had an opal that had lost its shine, you could have that fixed, or
Sometimes it depends on the stone. If we send it off, we can have it recut. But after that shine or the polished surface is taken away, what happens is opals are formed in layers. So each layer you polish off, you're going to get a different color pattern in that opal. So if we polish the top off or send it off to get polished, it could have a lot more color or it could have no color at all. But we do have a gem cutter that does. He comes here a couple times a year and hand carries gems back to Thailand and we have them cut there.
Rainbow moonstones, are they treated to have the iridescence, or is that how they are?
Rainbow moonstones are just like that. Same thing with labradorites. It's just how they form the inclusions in them. They give them that iridescence.
Okay, so they're not treated usually?
They're usually not treated. Maybe no, it's usually seen in white. They can come in natural pinks and other colors though.
Black pearls,
Black
and
pearl.
you see great big ones, irregular shapes and stuff. How long do they take, or is it just the type of oyster that makes them?
It's the type of oyster. Usually, it depends on the oyster. Some of them stay in there for a few months. They'll have just a minute coating on that nucleus. So the longer they stay in there, your cultured pearls will last longer. That nacre will last longer and stay shinier. It all depends. When you get the Baroque pearls, usually what happens is the oyster that forms it, they don't put an odd shaped nucleus in there where you see it, a natural, interesting free-form shape. What happens is it decides to build a little bit more on the pearl on this side and then a little bit here, so you have that Baroque look. Or flat, sometimes like the little flat pearls you see, those are off spin. It starts making something, they put a nucleus in there, and then it starts making its own second pearl on the side. They can put a cross-shaped nucleus in there or a heart-shaped nucleus, any shape you want, they can put in an oyster, and that they'll cover that in a nacre.
So when they make cultured pearls and they want round ones, they put in a perfectly round seed?
The more perfect your nucleus is, or the shape that you want it to be, if you put it in there, it'll tend to be that shape. But it's a living creature, so you can't really tell.
Sure.
We want this to be square. We don't want it
You don't
to be
take
square.
orders?
No, we're not robots. Sort of like humans, they don't listen very well. So. Any other questions or? I brought in a few, of my gemstones. I have imitations, natural gemstones. I brought in some of my rock collection, and then I have a few just glass gemstones out there. So feel free to come down and ask me questions. My business cards are up there. Or anytime, stop into the store. I work at the Powell Golden Buffalo store. We have 3 stores in Wyoming, but I'm there 5 days a week right now. Just give us a call or stop on in. If you have any questions about jewelry or you wonder what this gemstone is, I can give you a quick idea. And thank you guys all for coming in, and ladies for coming in. You're a wonderful first crowd to have for my first presentation, and thank you so much.